This is my mini print farm here in the studio, and I've actually run into a pretty interesting problem. I've actually run into the limit of what my electrical system can handle. And if you guys remember a few years ago, I used to have 2 rows of machines here, but back then the machines were way simpler, they required a lot less power, and they were just less demanding altogether. Now, albeit a lot less capable of what these machines can do. But now that I have these large, amazing, and capable machines, I actually can't even use them all at the same time. So whenever I have a project come up or some client work, I actually have to pick and choose which one of these machines I get to run. Things really started to change down here when printers like this came around into the studio. See, a machine like this not only uses multiple tool heads, but also a heated chamber, and it's a really large heated chamber. So when I need to print an ABS print, for example, or a similar material that needs a really hot bed, really hot end, and also a heated chamber, I can then only run about 1 or 2 other machines before I start to run into problems with my breakers. However, in prints that are less demanding, when I don't need to run a heated chamber, I can then run 4 or 5 machines down here. So when I have a big project come up that requires ABS or similar, which happens pretty often, I actually can't even run these machines. They kind of just are sitting here and I can't even turn them on. So instead of trying to get more power out of my house, I basically brought in another power source here into the studio. See, this is the Jackery 5000. It has just over a 5 kilowatt hour battery. It puts out over 7,200 watts of output. It is much more expandable in case you need it. It has a bunch of AC ports, a bunch of USB ports. And you know what? The specs might be nice and all, but I really fell in love with this thing because it actually solves a problem here in the studio. One of my actual favorite things about this thing is that I can use solar panels to charge it. So sometimes when the battery is low and it's really nice outside, I'm charging this thing from the sun. Now listen, I know it's not completely free, but using solar to recharge this thing definitely offsets a lot of the electricity that I'd otherwise be pulling from the house. This project is where the Jackery 5000 really proved itself. I was printing the tires on this project on the FL Sun S1 using this pretty expensive but amazing TPU Aero material from Chitty. And each one of these tires takes about 21 to 22 hours to print. And during the very first print, this tire right over here, right about, I don't know, 3/4 of the way, I lost power at the house. Now, this machine actually does a really good job at recovering as long as it's within a certain amount of time when the machine hasn't just sat there for a day. And I was able to recover this tire. There is a little bit of a line on the outside that you can visually see, but the bond seemed pretty good and it was almost at the end, so I just let it go. The next tire that I was printing, I actually didn't think anything of it. I let it go, and almost towards the end, we lost power at the house again. This time I was away. It was long enough to where there was an actual layer skip, and well, I lost that tire. And each one of these things is about half of a spool of this stuff, and each one of these spools is almost $50. So we're talking about a $22, $23 tire, and that was pretty sad. Now, the next time I started another one of those prints, I obviously just plugged it into the Explorer 5000. And here's the crazy part. I'm not even joshing you. I had 4 total power outages that day, and when this machine was printing, it didn't even know. See, the Jackery has a UPS backup mode that has a 0 millisecond switch time. So yeah, while the rest of the house was sitting dark, this thing was printing my tires. And that's how I have 4 of these tires with about half of a spool left from 2 total spools of the stuff. That's pretty amazing. Another time this really comes in handy is when I'm printing client work. This particular piece requires PPS-CF for the main part, and since its geometry is pretty complex and the orientation that it has to be printed at, it needs ABS supports. And this is one of the only machines that can do both of those materials at the same time. And when I print those, I need a 65-degree chamber, 120 on the bed, and 340 on the hot end. That's really, really demanding. And one of the things I really don't want when I'm printing something like this is the weather deciding whether this finishes or not. So if the power blinks, like unfortunately it tends to do around here, this thing won't even know it. And that's probably the Jackery's biggest feature. So when I'm running a print like that, it's definitely going through my Jackery, because why would I risk getting paid and keeping these lights on a power blank? One thing definitely worth mentioning, this thing weighs 134 pounds. So it's not exactly fun to carry up and down the stairs. But once you get it down here, it's not so bad. It's got a handle, big wheels on the back, and it's got casters on the front. So not so bad. I gotta be honest guys, when I first got this, I thought I was just gonna be using it for emergencies here and there around the house, but it has legitimately become a staple down here in my studio. I use it almost every single day. It lets me run more printers, it protects important prints, I can recharge it with solar, and when I'm doing client work, a little power blip isn't gonna ruin an expensive print. So if you're somebody with one printer, there's probably other solutions out there for you. But if you're somebody like me and you're pushing your electrical system and you've got a growing print farm, I found this thing to be incredibly useful. So if you'd like to check it out, I'm gonna have links down in the description as usual. Check out 3dprintsos.com if you wanna find cool merch like this. And as always, I'll see you down in the comments. Later.